October. The days are crisp, the pumpkin is spiced, and the seasonal depression is hitting. I've been a seasonal affective disorder girly for as long as I can remember. And if there is one thing I've learned all these years about preventing seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, it's to start doing all those good mental health habits early in the season, ideally starting now in October. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my fall and winter morning routine that includes all of the habits that I do during the season to boost my mood and keep myself from falling into a pit of despair. And if you are a fellow sad girly or boy-y, I hope it inspires you to start taking care of your mental health early this winter. If you are new to my channel, hi, I'm Audrey. I'm a therapist, and on this channel we talk about tools for improving our relationships, work lives, and overall mental health. Fun fact, I actually did my undergrad in physiology, which for the most part I feel was pretty unnecessary for me to become a therapist. However, I have found that it has really come in handy to help me to understand the more science-y side of mental health and how these habits we can do to improve our mental health actually work on a biological level. So, as always, all the habits we're talking about today are science-backed, and I can say from years of personal experience that they really do work. So, let's get into it. I am very lucky to be able to structure my life in a way where I get to wake up naturally without an alarm on the majority of the days. I am also very lucky that my body clock happens to wake me up at a reasonable time and around the same time every day, that being between 7 and 8 in the morning. Back when I was working a normal person 9 to 5, and I did have to wake up around 6 in the morning when it was still pitch dark outside, my saving grace was this sunrise alarm clock. Unlike normal alarms that wake you up by startling you, a sunrise alarm clock wakes you up more gently and naturally with a light that gets brighter gradually over 20 minutes. And then when it gets to its brightest after 20 minutes, it plays a nice soft bird chirping sound. This was a much more pleasant way to start the day compared to the default iPhone alarm, which I'm sure we've all been traumatized by at this point. Let me tell you why it's so much harder to get out of bed in the winter. The cause of SAD is still TBD, but it's thought to be linked to our biological clock, which is set by sunlight. So in the winter, when there's much less sunlight and the days are much shorter, our clock gets a bit thrown off. One of the main things our biological clock controls is our sleep-wake cycle, and it does this through a hormone that you've probably heard of, melatonin, the sleepiness hormone. Melatonin is suppressed by light, so when we're getting much less light in the winter, melatonin hangs around for longer and makes us feel sleepy. And it's also thought that people with SAD have elevated levels of melatonin. So this is where our first line of defense against SAD comes in, and that is light therapy. Let me introduce you to my SAD lamp. Without fail, I take my SAD lamp out of my closet every year around this time. Light therapy is one of the main lines of treatment for SAD, and there's research now to show that light therapy can be as effective at treating SAD as antidepressants. So the idea is that the light from the SAD lamp replaces the morning sunlight that's missing in the winter months to bring our biological clock back to normal and clear out the excess melatonin hanging around in the morning so that we can feel more like a normal human again. I like to sit in front of my SAD lamp while I drink my matcha and have my breakfast in the morning. Yes, I am one of those people that wakes up ravenous and eats breakfast first thing in the morning, and I make sure to sit in front of my SAD lamp for at least 20 minutes, which is the recommended amount of time for it to actually do something. Also, we want to make sure we're getting a SAD lamp that has a brightness of at least 10,000 lux, also for it to actually do something. There are certain exceptions where light therapy is not recommended, so this might be something you want to talk to a doctor first about before getting started. Next is supplements. I've got two for us today that are both going to help us to boost serotonin, the happy hormone. Our serotonin levels are also linked to our biological clock, which we've now talked about is not functioning normally in the winter, so it's thought that people with SAD might have lower levels of serotonin. The first supplement is vitamin D. Our brains need vitamin D to make serotonin, and usually we get our vitamin D from sunlight, but we don't get much of that in the winter, so I make sure to supplement vitamin D in the winter to make up for that. This is the vitamin D that I take. It's vitamin D3 plus K2. I believe the beauty influencers do this. I learned this from a Jay Shetty podcast actually, where he brought on a functional medicine doctor, and the doctor was talking about how we need the K2 part too, because the vitamin D3 helps our body to absorb calcium, and then the K2 part helps the calcium to get to our bones. So I chose to listen to that advice. The second supplement is fish oil, which has an omega-3 fatty acid called EPA. And there is a good amount of research now to show that taking EPA can be as effective as antidepressants to help relieve depression. I also started taking fish oil after listening to a podcast, surprise, surprise. This time it was the Huberman Lab podcast, and it was the episode on depression. So if you would like to learn more about the science behind how fish oil works to help relieve depression, I would definitely recommend checking out that episode. It was super interesting if you're also a nerd. Hi, sweetie. Do you want to go for your walk now? He's been waiting very patiently. My morning walks with Finn have become a cornerstone habit for my mental health and my physical health, to the point where if I don't do my morning walk, I feel off for the rest of the day. I like to think of my morning walks as my way to get my Andrew Huberman morning sunlight every day. As much as I rely on my sad lamp in the winter, nothing beats the real thing. So I try to soak up as much actual morning sunlight as I can from the limited amount that there is in the winter. My walk also helps me to digest my breakfast, and it gives me a moment of just being present before the rest of my day gets away from me. Before I got a dog, I heard dog owners say that having a dog has helped them to be more present. And at the time, I was like, okay, that sounds nice. But now that I have a dog myself, I know exactly what they were talking about. When I'm focusing on my dog, I'm not thinking about anything else that might be stressing me out in that particular time in my life. All I'm thinking about is how cute his little walk is. And like, look at those little ears bouncing up and down. How can anyone not feel happy just looking at him? The cuteness is one thing that helps me to be present, but also this rambunctious little guy keeps me on my toes, and I need to give him my full focus at all times to make sure he's not causing any issues. So since Finn entered his terrible twos, he has developed some behaviors, and walks have been really difficult. Like, he just pulls at anything that moves. People, dogs, squirrels, garbage trucks, school buses, you name it. And I ended up pulling out all the stops, and I forked out a good chunk of change for a one-on-one trainer. So our morning walks have also now become a time for us to practice everything we've been learning in training, and that requires my 100% focus. Like, I can't afford to be thinking about anything else. So the thing we've been learning to stop his lunging is to have a treat ready in your hand, and as soon as he sees the trigger, so the dog, the person, the squirrel, or whatever, you immediately say, ready? And as soon as he gives you eye contact, then you say yes, and you give him the treat. So far, we've had about a 50% success rate. On the majority of days, as soon as I get home from my walk, I start my 90-minute deep work session. Habit stacking works, everyone. I'm speaking from personal experience. At this point, I associate getting back from my walk with sitting down to do my 90 minutes. And this association has helped me to get started even on my lowest of motivation days. And Trust me, I have a lot of those in the winter. I have a lot of goals for YouTube, and working towards them is such a good feeling. It gives me a sense of forward momentum and like I'm making progress towards something. It gives me a sense of fulfillment doing something that I love. And it gives me a sense of meaning doing something that's really important to me, especially during the winter months when my mood and energy are low. Working on something that means a lot to me really helps me to stay motivated and optimistic. It's also a pretty well-known fact now that setting goals and working towards them has a lot of mental health benefits. It gives us a sense of purpose, which is a mental health must. It boosts our confidence and our self-belief, and it usually leads to us improving our lives along the way. I'd love to know what goals you're working towards this winter. Maybe it's a health and fitness goal or a reading goal, or maybe you want to learn how to crochet a blanket. Whatever your goal might be, let us know in the comments and let's do this together this winter. My 90 minutes are up and now I obviously have to go attack my dog with cuddles. This is the ultimate mental health fix for me. I immediately stop feeling stressed or sad and I immediately feel happy and calm. So as much work as this guy is, he's worth it. Today happens to be a day where I have therapy. Yes, I am a therapist and I myself go to therapy. Even though I have the knowledge and theory to do therapy, trying to apply it to yourself it just doesn't work the same. It's never as effective as getting an outside perspective. Also, personally, I think that if I'm gonna talk the talk, I need to walk the walk. So for these reasons, I make regular therapy sessions a non-negotiable for me, especially in the winter months when I'm much more prone to getting in my head and falling into negative thought spirals. Therapy really helps me to get some much needed perspective, and it just helps me to have a much healthier and more balanced outlook on life. Obviously, I'm biased, but hey, if you take this as your sign to get started with therapy, I'll take it. Thank you for following along on my morning routine. I really hope you found it helpful and it gave you some ideas for your own morning routine this fall and winter season. We got this, okay? We're gonna get through this winter. Everything's gonna be okay. As always, I hope you are doing well. I appreciate you and I will see you next time.